Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, which were Q&As, I gave you guys about 33 minutes of them, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And people who are trying to figure out what I'm doing all the time who haven't watched the videos should be a lot more apparent with what I'm doing today. But I had a subscriber ask me, Jason, if guys like Jerry Ward or Mike Rashid, if they really and truly actually believe that the supplements that they're pimping work, are they actually liars and con men? That's a good question. That's a good question. Because we come down to the difference of motivation. And as far as the way things should go for people who are buying products, you know what? You should never base buying a product on what someone else believes. It should be based upon what is the factual evidence that you can see. What makes the most sense, what's reasonable, what's logical. That should usually be a big determining factor when you spend your hard-earned money on something. Now, we know people who are smart, people who look at it intelligently, who are objectively realize this is a big snake oil industry, that very few supplements actually work. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably less than 5% of the supplements on the market actually work. And what they do generally fills some major deficiency in your diet. And their effects are generally small and probably borderline unnoticeable. But they still might work. The other 90 to 95% are probably entirely a waste of money in the worst case, and at the best case, might help if you have a really imbalanced diet, meaning a vegan might benefit from creatine and BCAAs. But someone who eats red meat 3 times a week, eats a steak 2 or 3 times a week, probably won't. Understand the difference there is about what are you getting from your diet? What are you getting from your diet? How does this stuff balance out? Now, on occasion, some of these supplements might make a tiny fraction of a difference for an athlete who has perfect training, perfect diet, everything else, who's in a competitive environment. It might give them a small edge, and that's not all of them, some of them. And I think that's understood by people who really understand this stuff. There might be a few of them who give them a small edge, but usually fixing your diet or your training programming will probably be worth a lot more than the best supplements on the market will, meaning you could probably improve your results 10, 20, maybe even 50% just by fixing whatever's wrong with your crappy training or your terrible diet. Okay, that can usually be worth massive differences. For an elite level athlete who's got all that stuff dialed in, all the supplements in the world might be worth a fraction of a percent. They probably won't give them a 1% difference. It's pretty unlikely. Maybe a little fraction of a percent, okay, in the right environment. But the difference is someone who's in that environment, who's seeking that, it might be worth it to them in a competitive environment. Most people aren't, and most people could actually get free improvements that are way more dramatic than what these supplements give. So that being said, motivation matters though. On your end, it shouldn't. But for the person selling it, does it make them a liar or a con man? That's the real question. And you know what? That comes down to motivation. Do they really believe it or not? And that can be hard to answer because, we have to go with our gut instincts. We have to listen to the way they spin their spiel and everything else to really determine that. But what I want people to understand, just because someone isn't a con man doesn't mean that they aren't selling snake oil. And that's what people need to understand, because a lot of people who do get roped into pimping these products have been roped in just like all of you. It's just that now they might be turning a profit off of it. There's a lot of YouTube channels who the guys aren't that bright. They don't realize this stuff doesn't work. They get roped into selling it. They're still shills for those companies. They very well might think they work. So I guess the difference comes down to where are they at in the chain. Is it fair to say that people who run a supplement company know their stuff doesn't work? Of course. You guys remember Lobliner saying he knows test boosters don't work? You guys remember that he said he knows they don't work, but he carried them because people demanded that he carried them even when he told them they don't work. Like, I don't care, I want to buy them from you anyways. He said all along, test boosters don't work. The only test booster that works is a syringe full of testosterone. And he said that. Now he carries a test booster claiming there's clinical evidence that it works because his company makes it, but the evidence actually isn't there. When you look at the studies, they're actually not legitimate data to suggest that it works. So he knows that. He knows that. He knows test boosters don't work, and he knows those studies aren't very good. Not enough that it would convince a reasonable person to buy the product. Someone who understands science wouldn't look at the data he has and go, oh yeah, I want to spend my money on that. They wouldn't look at that and say that. And he's aware of that. So we get to guys like Jerry Ward and Mike Rashid. You know what? If I had to go with my personal instincts, and you guys know Jerry and I have some differences between us. We are not friends. We do not get along. I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and say Jerry probably really isn't a con man with the supplements. Jerry probably really does believe that they work. I think that Jerry has burned his brain out with so many drugs over the years that he's kind of lost the grasp of being able to objectively think about things like that. And I think because he tries everything, Jerry is all about everything. Look at all of the drug stack that I linked that he had sent to me before, and he didn't deny that he was on all those drugs. He only argued that he thinks I changed one of the doses, and I didn't. You know what? But I think he made a typo. I'll give him that. He probably made a typo. That's reasonable to assume that he made a typo, and that's what I posted. But that is what he sent me. I don't think he was really on that much IGF-1. It probably was a typo. I think that's reasonable to assume he made a mistake in the typing. And I'll accept that he wasn't on that much. But he was on a lot of drugs. And a lot of supplements. I think Jerry's one of those guys that just uses everything and hopes it works and then feels like deep down, well, because I got some results on whatever stack I was on, that everything in the stack must be good, so this supplement must have helped. It must have had a synergy with the drugs. Must have, because I got good results. And I think he really thinks that way. I don't think he's very good with objectively looking at this stuff, and that's okay. So Jerry is still pimping stuff that I would still say, guys, don't buy this. This is snake oil. But he probably really believes it works. Okay? So I don't think he's actually lying. I don't think he's actually lying about a lot of it. Although I will call out the fact that, he was on IGF-1, and I had timestamps from those messages he sent me, and he admitted the messages were real. I had timestamps, and they were right around the time he was claiming BioGrow was giving him IGF-1-like results. So normally I would say he might think a lot of supplements work, but why would he do that? That was, again, an example of someone who really, I kind of get the impression, thinks supplements work, but we caught him in a lie because he was on real IGF-1 at the time. He had admitted to me he was on real IGF-1. Look at the dates on that stuff when I've linked it before. Yet he was up publicly saying, this BioGrow's giving me IGF-1-like results. So part of me has to say maybe he knows he's scamming on some of these things. Maybe he knows it. It's possible he knows it. But if he really believes it works, he's not really lying. It's like with anything else, guys. You can think someone's lying all you want. They might be telling the truth and you think they're lying. Or they might think that they're telling the truth and you think they're lying. But in either case, if they believe it, they're not lying. And you know what? Here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. A person can believe they're lying and be telling the truth and not realize they were telling the truth and be lying because they know they were lying. You understand the difference? What you believe is what determines whether it's a lie. Whether something is true or not isn't relevant. Because, truth, that's a hell of a question, isn't it? That's plagued philosophers for many, many generations, for centuries, for decades, for millennia. What is truth? But when we're talking about if someone is lying to you or conning you, they actually do have to believe that it's a con. They have to know that it doesn't work. At least on some level, for it to actually be a con or rip-off on their mind as far as them actually trying to screw you over. It's a big difference. Doesn't mean they're still not screwing you over if you buy it and they believe it. If you take guys like Rashid, though, it's very clear what Rashid's doing. Rashid is just making up random products and then pulling anything that might have a small study done somewhere, combining 5 different ingredients together and saying, oh, because there was a little study here or there showing one of these might do something, I'm just going to lump them all together and claim they all work. They're proving they work, and he just throws together big piles of junk and gives them over-hyped up names. All right, this is an example of someone in the business manufacturing these products who is very, very clearly making up bullshit as he goes. Very clearly doing so and trying to market to as many different groups as possible. He's trying to market to vegans, ketogenic dieters, everything with the same products. He's just reaching for everyone. That is someone who is just flat out, knowingly just ripping people off and not caring. Just getting people to buy anything that he can and overhyping names of products, making extravagant claims that aren't based in reality, like, oh, this will improve your mental focus, your intelligence, it'll supercharge your brain. Bullshit. Just complete bullshit. The guy's a total bullshit artist with what he's selling. Absolutely unbelievable claims about these products. And it's one thing to say something is unlikely. It's another thing to say it's unbelievable. And you know they're just making this stuff up. Like you might say, okay, something's statistically unlikely, but could it be possible? Okay. In this case, there's no evidence. He's just making it up as he goes. Supercharges your brain. Ketones in water? Are you serious, dude? Seriously? Your brain can't even burn fully on ketones. It has to have glucose. It takes the brain time to even adapt to using ketones for 50% of its fuel, and it still has to get 50% from glucose. So, I mean, this sort of stuff is just complete nonsense. So in the case of someone like that, you can look at it and say, okay, this guy is just flat out conning people. Flat out con man. Let's just call it what it is. He's hustling. He's a hustler. He's always been a hustler, and that's what he's still doing today. So therein lies the big difference between the different strategies you see guys use. Yeah, a lot of the guys, particularly the further they get up the chain in production of these products and the marketing end of it, the more likely they are to actually be lying to you and be conning you and being a hustler. A lot of these guys on YouTube and stuff, though, they're as sucked into it as the average buyer is, and they've been convinced of all this nonsense that you need these supplements, that they work, they do all sorts of stuff, and then they just start selling the stuff that they think, because they've been convinced that it works. They've used them there for years and they have results, so it must be the supplements helping. The fact that they're busting their ass in the gym and maybe eating a strict diet. It must be the supplements or the other anabolics they use. So they get sucked into it, and maybe they're not lying, maybe they're not con men, and there's probably a lot out there like that, but it doesn't mean that the products aren't still garbage. They might be being what they feel is honest to you and making a buck on it. They might honestly feel they're selling you a decent product in some cases, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a hustle at the top of the chain for the people who are reducing it higher up the chain, that they're just caught up in it like everyone else is. They just happen to be profiting off of it instead of spending their money. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.